Hi there, my name is Cassidy and I'm the news editor for The Same. I'm here to interview Christie, who's standing to be Director of Student Development and Activities. Hi Carol.
Hello.
Why do you want to be Director of Student Development and Activities?
I know it might sound a little cheesy, but it's because I care about what I do. So I've been involved in activities since Freshers Week, my first year. And through the highs and lows of everything I've done, it's always been the best part of my university experience. And so simply put, I want to make sure that everyone else has the same opportunity to get involved, that they enjoy it while they're doing it, and that they get something out of it at the end.
You spoke about you being involved in society activities since the beginning of your time at university. So what experience do you think you've had throughout university that would prepare you for this job over the next year?
Well, I started out with doing just so the Musical Theatre Society, and I got involved stage managing, which is somewhat of a management position, and as a first year is a little terrifying trying to organise 24th years at the Byre stage. So that was how I kind of got my start. I then went on and was on the Mermaids Committee in my first and second year, and then moved on to do On the Rocks, and am now Festival Director of On the Rocks, which I think has given me a lot of experience, not only with the union, but with societies as well, and that I could bring to the role of DOSTA.
Yeah. The DOSTA role has to sit on a lot of committees, it has to meet with a lot of societies, it has to, generally has to be on a lot of committees and organising things everywhere. Do you feel you'll be able to have the management skills to do that?
Oh, I think so. So On the Rocks, the way On the Rocks functions is we have an executive committee, and then under that we have a subcommittee for each area, and I sit in on all of those and let the heads of the subcommittees run them, but sit in as kind of an advising position, which is similar to what the DOSTA does. So for On the Rocks, we have a press subcommittee, we have a publicity subcommittee, we have an events subcommittee, a community event subcommittee, and sitting in on those to make sure that they know all the information that they need to know, and that they are doing everything they need, and then portraying it back to the exec committee as well.
What would you do differently from the past year of director of, not just Kyle Blaine's time, but just the things that have happened in the area of activities and student societies? What would you do differently?
I think Kyle's done a pretty good job this year, especially in making the union a bit more approachable for societies. One thing I would do specifically for societies is in society training. I know that sounds really boring, but with 160 societies, we do a blanket training at the moment for all of them, and they're all so different. So doing category-specific societies training, because the needs of the performing arts societies are different than the needs of the charitable societies, or the outdoorsy societies, or the food societies, and the interests of societies are so unique, so having training that reflects that, so working on the society training as well, and kind of making them more open and accessible to people.
Do you think that's feasible? Because I imagine the idea that it's a blanket sort of training right now is because that's the easiest way to do it. Do you think, because there are these over 140, 150 societies, do you think it's feasible to basically do a specific training for every single one? It's
not for every society, it's for every genre. So I've spoken to members of the Societies Committee who think it's a really good idea and think societies training as a whole kind of needs to be reworked as it is now. And so they liked the concept, because for the performing arts societies, you're booking venues, so you're working with the Byre, you're working with Younger Hall, you're doing things like that, and you need to know what other societies are paying in terms of fees. You need to know where they have gotten transport or their tech equipment from, things like that, which an outdoor society wouldn't need. So if you based it, if all the 10 performing arts societies did their training together, and the charitable societies, some of the charitable societies don't know that all of their money needs to go through the charities campaign because they're not told at societies training, and it's because societies training is blanket. So instead, having one session for each genre that you could sign up for instead.
Over the past year, is there anything you feel that you could have done better if you had been the DOSTA over the past year?
Being able to be found, I think, is one of the issues, and is one issue that I know a lot of people have faced with some of the sabbatical officers, is that they are so busy, and one thing I'd want to do is to have a drop-in session, because knowing when you're in and out of the building is a huge thing. So if you walk in trying to find someone and they're not here, but no one knows where they are, it means that either even if your question, no matter how small, takes a lot longer to answer, and the small problem could escalate into a big problem. So having weekly drop-in sessions or bi-weekly drop-in sessions might make it easier for people to know when you're in the building, and when every Tuesday from 2 to 4 I will be in the office. So always come then if you have a small problem that needs to be dealt with.
Yeah, well, in reference to that, you did say that obviously you acknowledge that sabbatical officers are very busy. This is one of the reasons they can't be found, one of the reasons why often they don't have time for contact with students. Do you think, as DOSDA, you'd have time for this drop-in session? Yeah,
I do, I think so, because there are times where they're in the office, but it's just making it a consistent part. So making sure that if you schedule it from the beginning, you know never to put a meeting Tuesdays 2 to 4, because you've scheduled it into your calendar in advance.
One of the things we've noticed recently with societies, especially as small societies, feel that they have been disadvantaged, especially in comparison to bigger societies within the union. What would you do to tackle that problem?
I think one thing that was started this year that I would want to continue is the Student Projects Fund, which offers smaller societies an opportunity to get funding. So the Students Project Fund is £6,000 that is ring-fenced by the DOSDA and is distributed by the DOSDA to societies that have ideas that enhance student activities and student needs within the town and within development in general. And I would want to either see that grow or at least keep it at £6,000 that is given out to societies who need that help in terms of funding events, because a lot of the smaller societies might have these big ideas but don't have the resources to put them on.
Okay. So you just spoke about the Student Projects Fund. In your manifesto you say you'd hope to expand it, but you're saying there that you think either expand it or keep it at the same level? At
the very least keep it the £6,000, and if not, look for other sponsors to come in and give us the money to give out.
Okay. One of the other things you spoke about in your manifesto is this idea of career centre and non-traditional career paths, and making sure that people who maybe aren't following like typical careers after university are still provided for and catered for by the career centre. How would you do this?
Well, the Career Centre, I think, works really well for a lot of students, for students who want to go into those traditional paths. But it doesn't cater for those wanting to go into non-traditional. So the arts, sports, music, charities. And one thing On the Rocks is doing this year is we're doing a Careers in the Arts workshop. So we're bringing up an alum who has spent the last 10 years working in arts management. And we're bringing her up, and she's going to give a workshop and a talk on her career and how she got into it and what she's done, and kind of answer any questions for people who are interested in going into careers in the arts, which is a non-traditional career and one that the Career Centre doesn't really help with. So if you're interested in arts management, they just direct you to other people. So using this as somewhat of a trial to see how these workshops could work in the future, and doing careers fairs or career workshops based around the subcommittees of the union, because charities, sports, Star Radio, Music is Love, Mermaids, On the Rocks are all great, and a lot of people want to use what they've learned here and take these skills and bring them on into the career, and the Career Centre doesn't give them that opportunity.
Apart from, say, workshops or fairs, is there any sort of specific things you would like to see the Career Centre doing next year, that, like, sort of to cater to students who might not want to enter things like, law or business or things like that?
They have the shadowing schemes at the moment, and potentially finding alumni as well who are willing to allow students to shadow in some of these non-traditional fields.
Yeah. What do you think you have as a candidate for DOSDA that no one else has? What would you be able to do that no one else could do?
This is a I think that one thing that I've learned over the 4 years is really how to work with other people, either in charge or as part of a team, and how to help people facilitate their own creativity. So through On the Rocks, we're not really an event planning, we help facilitate events. So we work with 30 different societies to help bring their ideas forward. And so I think that's something I tend to be good at, to help people further their own ideas and not just my own, and helping support societies and advocating for societies to do what they want to do.
Are there any more specific ideas that you have that you feel you want to go into more detail about in your role, like that I haven't mentioned so far?
No, because we've talked about the biggest, the volunteer recognition scheme, which I think is a big thing that Kyle has done this year, and it's really important, but it hasn't been rolled out to the students, so it's something he's been working on all year, but students still aren't able to input their volunteer hours. So the point of this is it's somewhat of a reward at the end of your service to the union and to the university. So you are allowed to submit your volunteer hours, and they get checked. And then once you've hit a certain number of hours, it's added to your academic transcript. So it becomes an addendum, and when you go into job interviews or things like that, you can, if they're looking at your transcript, you can say, here are my grades, but this is what I spent my time doing. And rolling that out in full. And if Kyle can get that done by the end of the year, that would be great. And working with and if he doesn't, rolling it out at the beginning of next year and working with some of the teething problems that all new systems have, and making sure that students' hours that they spend volunteering are recognized. Because during Rag Week or during Green Week, during On the Rocks, during a lot of these festivals, or even doing the Saint, you spend so many hours editing news articles and things like that, and those hours should be recognized beyond what you do out in the classroom.
Would this system be available to non-affiliated societies?
Yeah, it's available to all students.
So is there a chance you think that it could be abused? Like, for instance, someone could say, oh, like it's a non-union affiliated society, and someone could just say, they could organise with their friends and say, oh, I did 10 hours on this like the other night, and whereas they might have spent 10 hours watching, could be the Netflix watching society, and they'd spend 10 hours doing that.
There's always the possibility, and that's what that first year of like a trial run would be for. So it's working out some of those teething problems to make sure they don't happen in the end, to make sure that it is seen as a legitimate form of volunteering.
Can you name me one good thing and one bad thing from the past year as in the realm of student development activities that you would like to see improve upon or see more of for the good thing?
Yeah, I think one bad thing that's happened in terms of student activities has been with the new venue booking system. So students, not only in the union, in other places as well, but student groups have been moved for either university or commercial interests. So they've had bookings cancelled, or they've been asked to move because of a more important or more quote-unquote legitimate person who's coming in to do an event. So trying to stop that and advocating for students and making sure they get the priority that they deserve in this town and in the spaces that they use. So that's something I would definitely want to fix, working with the union, the Buyer, the Baron, and Younger Hall especially. And then one of the good things, I think, is the fact that the number of societies are still growing. There were 9 new societies this year, which I think is huge. We created a new subcommittee this year. So On the Rocks became a subcommittee of the union, which gives it the security that it needs, because the union is here to protect student activities and to protect all of our societies, not prohibit creativity. It's here to allow us to flourish and give us the security we need, which I think is really important and valuable, and think done very well.
Okay, so you spoke about the problem with room bookings there. That is an issue we even reported on in the Saint. One of the things we saw, either the Rock Society also had a problem in terms of booking rooms, but also there was the various allegations. Some people were like, oh no, it wasn't true. Things were saying there was confusion about it. But obviously the idea of smaller societies feeling that like they are pushed aside in favour of other people is obviously a concern among some students. Do you feel this is a valid concern?
I do, but I also think a lot of it stems from some of the teething problems with the new booking system as well. So to an extent, I don't think it's an attack on smaller societies. I think there are problems that need to be worked out with the system as a whole, and then allowing for these groups to book in a more efficient way, which I would work with the DOES to make sure that these smaller societies, or all societies, kind of have the priority that they need in booking.
In summary, is there anything you could say to add about why people should vote for you to be the Director of Student Development Activities?
Sure. I have spent a lot of my time in this university town doing activities, whether it's a small musical or a play at a random warehouse, and although a lot of my experience is in the arts, it's not the only thing I'm interested in, and I think that everyone has a passion, and I really want them to see people use them and go forward with them and to help facilitate that if possible.
Okay, thank you for speaking to us, Caroline.
Thank you.
If you want to hear the rest of our interviews, they'll all be on the same website or our YouTube account online.